Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the BA Forum. We are a podcast club that speak on a plethora of topics. Our goal is to promote individuality, speak for those that don't have a voice, and address social topics that are happening in today's experience. Our topic today is kneeling during the National Anthem, hosted by Ashley Onyezurike. We also have special guest undersheriff Mickey Colon. Let's get started. Okay. So the first question is, what does the National Anthem represent to you?
Well, I will say the national anthem is like a symbol of freedom for America as a whole. And yeah, that's basically it.
All right, so the national anthem. The national anthem means to me it is the symbol of freedom. It is it is a little militant because it speaks of rockets red glaring and all that other stuff, but it also signifies to me the struggle and the fight that our forefathers had against tyranny. So liberty, freedom. Somewhere somebody said that this should be our national anthem. Francis Scott Key wrote it. Other than that, it is a symbol of who we are as Americans.
You mentioned Francis Scott Key. Did you know that Francis Scott Key did not intentionally write it for everyone of the entire race?
He did not intentionally write it for all Americans. Probably not. At the time, of course, he was speaking of merchants. He was speaking of farmers. He was speaking of landowners, business people. And yes, I'm sure he wasn't thinking about slaves when he wrote the national anthem. Francis Scott Key wasn't thinking about that. But at the time, that's what we were doing. That's what the United States was doing. You can go as far as, the Declaration of Independence, where, all men are created equal. Do you think they were talking about slaves? Absolutely not. But with the current situation back in the colonial days in the 1700s, they were talking about, rebelling against tyranny, against a king, against one person who ruled ruthlessly. They didn't get it right, but that's what was going on back then.
Okay. Now, as America as a whole, we know that freedom of speech is a part of our many amendments. And do you think that kneeling during the pledge is just a form of protest rather than anything else?
To a certain extent, because I bet half of the people who are kneeling now probably don't even know what they're kneeling for. They probably just need something to go with the Black Lives Matter movement. And so, yeah, that's what I think.
Well, all right, here we go. Hold on, Ash. Kneeling. It's probably one of the biggest form of disrespect to the country, to the flag, to the American people. All. I'm talking black, white, Spanish, Chinese, Mexican, whatever. It is the biggest form of disrespect. And this is my opinion, only because I am a veteran, a 6-year veteran in the United States Marine Corps. I've seen every race, color, creed. I'm talking homosexuals, lesbians, Chinese, Canadians in the United States Marine Corps. I've met people from all walks of life, and they didn't care what color you were, because if there was a female Marine who was from Nigeria, she was my sister. We worked together. She raised her right hand and she pledged an oath to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution. So I understand the protest portion of it. I get it. Do I feel that should I stop you? Absolutely not, because that's why I went over to Saudi Arabia back in 1991. That's why my friends went to Afghanistan. That's why my friends went to Iraq, to give the American people that right to protest, the right to assemble. You had mentioned the freedom of speech. There's also the right to bear arms. There's also the freedom of the press, the religion, all that other stuff. None of that stuff gets protected by you or by anyone here, right? All that stuff gets protected by the veteran, the man or the woman who joins the military service that gives you that right. Now, I understand the protest is over the racial inequality, right? The police brutality. I'm not gonna sit here and pump sunshine and say it doesn't happen. Yeah, it does happen. But as Colleen Kusi, she's got to be better than anybody she's ever met. Tori Gilliard has to be better than anybody else, because that's what we should strive for. Each individual should strive for being the best person that they can be. So the racial inequality, I gave an interview earlier to New Jersey cops, and he asked me about Black Lives Matter, kneeling. I mean, listen, I thought, did he actually talk to you guys before he talked to me? So I had to call him on the telephone and talk to him about it. So I gave him my version of Black Lives Matter. My Black Lives Matter is Black Lives Matter to me. Why? Because I'm in the hood. I'm in the hood every day. When I was in the hood, I was in the projects, I was on the streets, and so was my friend Tim Geddes, who is white as the day is long. And Black Lives Matter to him too. Why? Because we're sitting there, we're at a crime scene where a kid, 16 years old, gets shot 3 times in the back. We want to find out who shot this kid. Who would shoot a kid, right? Somebody that didn't like him, somebody that was a businessman, that was trying to move in on his territory. Listen, it is what it is, right? But Black Lives Matter to me because I'm out there every day making sure that I don't care who you are, whether you're on 3rd Street or whether you're on Palisade Road in Elizabeth or in Hillside or in Union or at Scotch Plains. I don't care. Everyone matters. And I know that sounds cliche. Everybody says
okay.
All lives matter, right? No. For me, Black lives matter. Puerto Rican lives matter. Portuguese lives matter. Everybody matters to me. And for the law enforcement, I'll just say law enforcement because that's who everything's aimed at right now. For them to take such a beating, listen, you go to NYPD and you see everybody from every gender, creed, color, whatever it is, and they're all working together. Are there bad apples? Absolutely. At one time I gave, because I worked in Elizabeth, at one time I gave it was 3%. 3% of the police department was corrupt. I thought that was a high number. But then as I started working and I started seeing some guys do the things they do, I'm like, yo, that's not right. You either got to stop or you're going. And that's what I did. Because guess what? I came from First and Court. I came from First in Jersey. I came from Dayton Street in Newark, Jersey Avenue in Jersey City. I came from those streets. So I know this big red-headed Irish cop coming down Okay, let's get out of the way because he's coming through. Right? So I experienced that. But I got on the police department to make that change.
Right.
What else?
Okay, just to 1 second, just to divert from that, a follow-up question. Now, most of us know that the kneeling during the pledge started mainly in the NFL with Colin Kaepernick. So, do you believe that Colin Kaepernick was the incentive in bringing forth protesting during the pledge, or do you think that he was just a secondary element within this movement? The Black Lives Matter movement I'm referring to.
I believe that although protesting in various different ways was very popular before Colin Kaepernick started the kneeling, I believe that he definitely brought a little bit more angst, I guess, to the protesting and kind of gave a more like uniform way to protest, because it is not every day that, you know, you can go rally up a group of people and walk through streets and, you know, kind of disturbing the daily lives of working people. But what you can do is, you know, by yourself, you know, within yourself or with a group of friends or something like that, you can take a knee by yourself or with your friends or whoever and kind of do that protest. And it's not like causing any physical disruptions, I guess. So. Personally, I think Colin Kaepernick was just a secondary element because kneeling around like during the pledge was just always there. It's just the fact that he reinforced it and people just followed him. Because I know for the law case of West Virginia versus Board of Education with Burnett, it made it unconstitutional to force a child or any person to kneel during the pledge. So I just think he was a secondary element. He just reinforced it and people started following. That's what I believe.
Is there a different kind of protest someone could do during the national anthem that would not be considered disrespectful?
I don't think so, because any form of protest, there's always going to be somebody that is going to think it's disrespectful. Kneeling during the national anthem, I really don't think it's disrespectful because, first of all, the national anthem is just so outdated. And since it's from that time, they purposely excluded Black people from the national anthem or from anything during that time. So it shouldn't really be a disrespect to the veterans of today, just because of the fact that the national anthem is just so outdated. The country has tried so hard to get rid of things that purposely exclude Black people, that the national anthem should be something included in that. So, yeah.
I feel like I feel like kneeling isn't disrespectful because Colin Kaepernick, he interviewed these veterans and he asked them what was more disrespectful, kneeling or sitting, and they said sitting was more disrespectful than kneeling. So kneeling is a more respectful way to do it instead of sitting. So I feel like, yes, there will always be people who will get upset by it, but kneeling is a way that people who do it, it's the way they express their protest, and it's the way they feel that they need to bring apart the attention to the police brutality and the injustice. So I feel like it's not disrespectful, and that it's sufficient for them to get across to bring apart awareness.
Okay. If I may ask, do you kneel during the pledge? If so, why? And if not, why not?
I do kneel during the pledge. The reason that I choose to kneel during the pledge is just because I do not agree with all the injustices that have been put upon us who have become the American people since God knows when. Like we have been given our the 13th Amendment, the 14th, the 15th, and then so all the amendments before and after, they apply to us, and I feel like some of those have kind of been violated. And also, if you think about it, you know, it wasn't as much, isn't as much as an uproar for, other groups of people outside of Black people when a police brutality event happens, and you hear, oh, the police officer had their knee dug into the back of that person and suffocated them. That isn't put as much as a big deal as putting my knee on the ground, doing something that I have the right to, but taking someone's life. I understand you're trying to enforce the law, and I'm not saying that, the people, that people who are doing wrong should not be punished. But when the punishment is taken way out of proportion and something that is our right is being blown more out of proportion than violence, it doesn't make sense to me.
Personally, I don't kneel during the pledge, but there are moments in my life that I don't say it. I don't kneel during the pledge because there's one of two reasons. Because kneeling down the pledge does show disrespect, but I have a feeling that there's two different types of Americas. When I say the pledge, I think of my mother saying the national anthem or saying the pledge when she was first inducted as a citizen in the United States. But at the same time, I don't say the pledge because I think of all the police brutality that's going on in the United States, and I think of all the times that people have excluded or deprived African Americans for the right to vote, or any colored individual the right to vote, or prevented them to actually do anything in the United States. So I don't kneel during the pledge, but at the same time, I don't say it because it depends on the moment, because I feel like there's an America that gave my mother the right to become a citizen, but there's also an America that also deprives me of my right to vote.
I do kneel during the pledge, mainly because during the pledge it says liberty and justice for all. And obviously right now there is no liberty and justice for all, just liberty and justice for some. So until liberty and justice for all means exactly, without any substitutions or exclusions, liberty and justice for all, then I will stop kneeling. But as of right now, it means liberty and justice for some and not all. I will continue to kneel.
So if I could take 4 minutes, all right. Young lady over here says the national anthem's outdated. Then so is the Constitution. So is the Declaration, because it was written before that. So is that outdated as well? And do we get rid of that? That's the first thing, all right? How many, aside from you, how many parents were born outside of the country? All right. So did you hear about the young lady from Bridgewater who is now incarcerated in some African country, right? Because she tweeted of what she thought. She's literally trying to usurp that government, and they jailed her. You can say anything you want in this country. I don't like Donald Trump. I don't like Barack Obama. I think Hillary's a witch. You can say anything you want, and nobody is going to lock you up. The minute you say something like, I want to kill you, well, that's terroristic threats, and that's against the law, right? So that's that. So thinking about justice for all, liberty and justice for all. Well, I'll take it to a personal level, right? Was there liberty for me coming out of the projects of Newark? Absolutely. Was there liberty for my brother who was a crackhead? Absolutely. Was there liberty for my other brother who was a convicted felon? Robber, drug dealer, the whole nine, shot dead in the street. Absolutely. Liberty for him. Justice for us, right? So the kid who killed my brother in Newark, Shot him 4 times. Did he get liberty and justice? Yeah, he actually did. He got justice. He was out in 3 years. So that's justice for me? That's justice for my brother? Got 3 years for a homicide on the city streets of Newark. Got out in 3 years, then killed his girlfriend. Shot her right in the head. Justice. That was justice for him, right? Now, yeah, it does get a little personal, right? But liberty and justice for all, for anybody in this room, right? That you can do whatever you want to do. Now, I don't know who pays tuition here. I pay, we pay tuition, right? But the fact of the matter that I was given the opportunity, so was your mom, right? Given the opportunity, go work, go educate yourself, go work anywhere you want, right? Kids came out of the school, went to Villanova, Ivy League, right? Howard, North Carolina, right? That's liberty. That's justice. That's in the process. Now, have any of you ever been the victim of a crime? Raise your hand. Victim of a crime, right? Right? Have you ever been robbed? Right? Have you ever been assaulted? Right? Yeah. Did those people get away? They got away, right? That's justice. Oh, by the way, who robbed you? Describe him to me.
I have no idea who it was.
Was he wearing a mask?
No, like I wasn't at home when it happened. We got back and
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. There's a difference between robbery and burglary. Robbery is personal. Burglary is residential. It's property, right? So, yeah, same thing. I was mugged. I was robbed. I was beat up. But guess what? That didn't stop me. Did not stop me. I hold one of the highest offices here in the Union County as a law enforcement officer. Coming from the projects, is that liberty? Is that justice? I'd say damn Skippy, right? So, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. You want to be an attorney general, or you want to be the head chief public defender, like my friend over here, right? You can do that. By the way, Sheila Oliver, you know who she is. She is now the first black female, holy cow, talk about glass ceiling, lieutenant governor of the state of New Jersey. Is that liberty and justice? Absolutely. And that, guess what? You can't do that anywhere else. Listen, we don't do it right. We don't do it wrong either. We are the ones that do it the most right and the least wrong in the United States. Because listen, I don't know where else anybody else came from, but I'm sitting here. I am wearing a Burberry shirt, right? That's a $150 shirt in America. I didn't buy it, but it was given to me. It's a gift. But again, so one, outdated? Absolutely not. Because if that's outdated, so is the Constitution. Throw them all out. We're going to throw one out, throw them all out. And then see what you got. There's a saying that a people that are not willing to fight for their beliefs soon lose all that liberty. I don't know what world you're going to grow up in, but I hope it's the same one that I grew up in. It's already changed, that's for sure. So.
Okay, just to echo off of what Mr. Colon said, I agree 100%. Like, most of my friends know, I feel very strongly about my patriotism for my country. With me, I am African American, but I do not know my African history or my roots. So this is all I have. I don't have another country to be prideful of. And it's funny when you see people from Colombia being prideful of Colombia and people from Portugal being prideful of Portugal. And then when you're prideful of America, it's an issue. So I think the one thing for me is I take pride in my country and everything that it stands for. And even though I am a black woman in America, there are, of course, going to be adversities that I will face. But I do have the same opportunity as the next person. And that's the reason that I love it here. Just want to say that. There we go. Okay.
Listen, it's okay to love your background. Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm strong. I'm Puerto Rican. My wife is Cuban. We adore where we came from. But this is us now. because this is us, that's us, we're all us.
Just recently, Donald Trump launched a sensational attack on the NFL anthem protesters. Do you believe that sparked more people to kneel during the pledge?
Donald Trump, I feel, is the main reason now that most people want to kneel during the pledge or during the national anthem. I feel like it's just a protest now against Donald Trump, and it's not really a protest against like police brutality. I mean, that all plays a part in it, but because it's like the name Donald Trump, like you instantly think, okay, I'm going to kneel because Donald Trump represents the United States, Donald Trump represents this, that, the third. And like nowadays, people don't really think about it. It's strictly because you don't like Donald Trump, so you're going to go against everything that he stands for. That's just my opinion on it.
Donald Trump is one crazy rich dude. Right? I mean, he's just, if I had $1 billion, I'd say whatever I wanted to. By the way, I'm the leader of the free world. I can say whatever about Chinese wonton soups and, Jamaican or Haitian dirt cookies, whatever, right? He's a rich, powerful man. He says whatever he wants. That ticks a lot of people off. But the fact of the matter is that the United States elected him like they would have elected Hillary Clinton, like they would have elected Bernie Sanders, like they did elect Barack Obama, and all the presidents. They elected those people. He's the president. It's the system. He's crazy, but.
Agreed.
I feel like after the sensational attack about the NFL, people are just kneeling, as Emma said, for the wrong reasons, and they just do it out of spite. Because I know that one of the coaches, when this big football team, I don't know the name of the football team, but the entire team kneeled just because Donald Trump made the comment. And then some of them don't even, like, before he made the comment, they never kneeled. Even some of them they even didn't even know what they were kneeling for. And even the coach of the NFL team, he kneeled because of Donald Trump's comment. So he had no idea what he's fighting for. He didn't even know the message of the kneeling. So they just did it because Donald Trump, I'm going to hate Donald Trump. I'm going to rebel against Donald Trump. That's the only whole reason why they kneeled.
Do we understand that these NFL players are millionaires? They have nothing in common with the kid on the street, unless they were that kid on the street. Case in point, Colin Kaepernick. He grew up white. He has white parents. He's half white, half black. What are you doing, bro? You led a golden life. Seriously? You're gonna now because you started to your career started to wane. You want to pick up another thing to get your name out there? Well, I don't know. I guarantee you that Colin Kaepernick has never suffered an indignity. He has never been either probably assaulted by police officers, but he wants to bring it out as an injustice. Like I said before, there are injustices. Yes. There are bad apples. Yes. There are 40,000 police officers in the state of New Jersey that do their job every day. The kid in Newark that attempted to rob a Jersey City police officer. Do we know what color he was? Do we know what color that police officer was? No? They don't want to know that. Nobody wants to know that. Media doesn't want to push that. Right? The media wants to push that a police officer shot someone. Never mind the fact that he was trying to rob him. Now, I guarantee you that if you could exact revenge on anybody that did you harm, you would. It's a human nature. Again.
And to add on that, there's recently been a case, I don't know the specifics, but they were at a stoplight and the man got shot by a off-duty police officer, and the police officer was black. And everyone was saying, well, how can Black Lives Matter if there's black people killing black people? And it just really goes to show that it's not a race thing. It's just bad people come in all shapes, all sizes, and once it happens, it happens. So
In Kansas, there are bad white folk. They're bad Indians, right? Up in South Dakota, where they have reservations. They have the probably highest rate of crime in South Dakota are on the reservations. They're Indians, right? So my whole thing on protesting, listen, you want to protest, fine. The next time somebody gets shot on South 13th in Newark, I want everybody to gather up and go there and protest. But you don't see it. You don't see it. Why? Nobody wants to go to South 13th. Hell, you might get shot there, right? Sad.
Annette's national anthem singer, Justine Sky, kneels to finish her performance. What is your perspective or reaction on her actions? So, she sang the national anthem and then kneeled. Afterwards.
If it's up to me, she'll never sing again. I don't know who Justine Sky is, by the way.
Listening to everybody else's perspective, it kind of changed mine a little bit. It did. That actually was disrespectful because you're going to go ahead and sing the national anthem and you're just going to pretend like you're okay with the national anthem and then you're just going to straight up protest against it right after. And that is disrespect. Just because she looks two-faced, you know? What side is she on? If you sing the national anthem and then you kneel, what are you trying to tell people? Like, are you trying to tell people that you support it or that you're against it? That just, especially to people that support her, I don't know who she is, but for people that support her, it is kind of confusing, especially for famous people doing things. Kids are always going to want to follow in their footsteps just because they're famous or just because they did this or did that. And just because of that, it just kind of sends a confusing message to kids or just to people in general, that you could do something or you could stand for something and then just disrespect it later as if it didn't happen.
I guarantee you, if the coordinators of whatever it was asked her, are you going to kneel afterwards? And she would have said yes, they would have never let her sing. They would have never let her sing. But she was sneaky about it. Oh, she got us. You know? Again, two-faced, undecided. Let me sing this patriotic national anthem and then kneel. Why don't you just kneel while you're singing it? You know? You want to make a point? I guarantee you somebody would have tackled her.
Going back to the NFL players, as you know, them standing on a big high social status, just like the singer that you had mentioned before, Tori. I think she was also very well aware, just like the football players were, based on the kind of social status that they were on and the platform that they already had as celebrities. So I think she really took her big audience and her concert as a, advantage, of course, to really get more attention, because just like before, that's how more celebrities get a lot more followers. That's how a lot more people are able to listen to her music. That's why a lot more people are able to buy her songs based on what she tries to show, what she stands for, or the kind of point that she's trying to prove. So I think that was also a big point in her kneeling for the national anthem. I'm not saying what she did was right. I'm completely against people who kneel during the national anthem. But, unfortunately, it's still a big issue, especially going around with celebrities and still going on.
I just wanted to say Justine Sky, actually, she received death threats for kneeling down during the national anthem. So do you think it was rightly deserved for her to receive death threats?
It's never rightly deserved.
It's never right. Yeah, I've received death threats.
Yeah.
It's because of what I do. I put bad people in jail, and they say they're going to kill me. But guess what? So be it. Keep talking. I'll see you in 20 years when you're out of jail. Hopefully, I'll still be around. But no, definitely not right. Listen, it was her platform. It was her time to shine or do whatever she needed to do to make her statement, and she took it. Just like all these NFL players. Did I mention that they're millionaires? Wow.
Okay, any final thoughts? Okay. On behalf of the BA Forum, we want to thank you for tuning in and thank you all for speaking and listening to today's podcast. Be sure to come back on December 7th for another live discussion. See you soon.